Hello, 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 friends. Very good to see you today. I am excited to be back in this live lesson with you today. It didn't happen last week because I had no power. And for the whole day, I was trying to figure out how to stay sane without electricity and the internet and how to continue working. But I'm glad to be here today, and I am here with a short lesson on membership sites. I know many of you are thinking about this as a possibility, and indeed so. When you learn how to move from one-to-one classes into more sustainable models, creating a membership site becomes a possibility. And there are a lot of opportunities for you to do that without getting too deep into the technical stuff. And about that, I will be talking about in this live. So, first of all, what is a membership site? Now, if you are with an online language learning teaching space, you're probably familiar with membership sites. These are sites or options, offers that you give to your students and that allows them to come together and work together, but not necessarily in real time. So it's the benefit of a community, the benefit of accountability, the benefit of talking to you, which is, I think, incredible. And also, it's an opportunity for you to reach a lot more people at the same time. So the students benefit by leaning into the community, getting accountability, finding their language learning buddies, getting their questions answered by you, and you are able to reach beyond one-to-one classes and continue providing your services to a larger crowd, which is really incredible because teaching online is so powerful. We don't want to create an online classroom where we're just kind of cloistered in the so-called four walls, but instead we want to move beyond that. So in this live, I would like to talk about the wonderful possibilities that a membership site can offer to you. And some of the examples that I will be using in this lesson come from my own experience of running an online community for online language teachers called the Smart Teachers Library that actually opens in less than 14 days. And I hope that if you can go on elenamotono.com and check it out. It's going to be open very soon for early enrollment. There will be another enrollment in September as well. But I will also be sharing with you the wins and the stories of online language teachers I worked with in our community. And these are the teachers that were able to use the assets that they create on a regular basis, which is materials, right? And reach a group of people beyond their one-to-one circles. And for some of them, the transition was so seamless that they were able to go on maternity, paternity leaves and still continue generating the same amount of money, which is insane. And I know that myself because once I started my community, which was 7 years ago, it took a while for me to build it, but I got to a point where now I can leave or take a break and not worry about scheduling, rescheduling, conflicts, etc. I have a community that is a place where I can help teach, inspire teachers and coach them. And in return, I get the source of recurring revenue that is growing. So it's a long-term strategy, but there are certain things that you want to set in place if you want to see that for yourself or your business in the future. So what do online language learning spaces look like? Well, most of the time, it's a group of learners that come together for a specific goal. That's the first very important thing. You need to figure out what is that goal that you want to pursue, whether you want your students to be speaking, whether you want them to be learning together and interacting around movies or podcasts. There's something in common that all of them have and share that you capitalize on and talk about. And that is usually your niche. So in my community, for example, I talk about building a sustainable online language teaching business. So my community is not for all online entrepreneurs. I only vibe and resonate with online language teachers because I'm an online language teacher myself, and I do not need to be saying and talking to anybody. I really resonate with the community of online language teachers. And I want to inspire them to move away from one-to-one classes into a more sustainable models of teaching. And that looks different for different people. It's not just one cut and dry solution. It's not just all memberships. It's not just all online courses. It's not just all, voice chat programs. It can be different for different people. But the goal is to inspire online language teachers to move away from one-to-one hustle and to create something sustainable that will continue growing and scaling without taking a lot of the teachers' resources, right? A lot of their time. So a membership then is a group of people that come together for a specific purpose. And for language learning, it can be speaking or, watching movies and speaking. It can be writing communities. It can be communities for business individuals that learn to present better, that learn to negotiate better, etc. There has to be one common thread for everybody. And the idea with a community that you inspiring people to join and continue growing over time. So it's not like an online course where you join, you go from A to Z and you're done. Okay. So memberships, another point, is a great opportunity for you to utilize all the resources and all the materials that you are creating, right? So most of the time when you are working one-on-one, you're creating these amazing resources and amazing lesson plans, but the only people that benefit from them are the people that are working with you one-on-one. Now, if you're able to take these lesson plans, or maybe even if you have your own assets, like your own videos or your own podcasts, which some of the teachers that I know inside the Smart Teachers Library, that was the foundation for their business models. They started with like a handful of 10, 12 students, and now they're like over 100 of members in their community, and they were able to build this community starting with the creative push to put together, design unique authors' materials for language learning. And so that is the second part. So you bring people that are connected with one idea. And then the second part is that you are offering to them a vault of resources, and you are constantly updating these resources. In fact, that is one of your selling points, is the resources. When I first started the Smart Teachers Library, one of the reasons I did that was because I had an overflow of materials that I kept creating, and I do that. I am very prolific, and the more time, and you will discover that too, the more time you free up as an online teacher, the more you move away from one-to-one classes, the more creativity you will gain, because creativity loves space. So once you clear out the space, and once you're able then to go out there and provide more value and to more people, but that is not going to take much of your time in terms of one-to-one classes, you will discover that creativity. And so when I discovered that, it was kind of like amazing, but at the same time, what am I going to do with it? I had so many trainings that I kept doing and they were different, and I was very curious, and I would research and I would do, and had amazing response from teachers, and they were coming in and supporting. It was great. But after a while I discovered that I had so many that I could no longer individually sell each one. Otherwise I would just go crazy, which at some point I did. I actually hired someone to help me figure out how to segment my list and how to send offers to different people. It was insane. But that is your value proposition. When in the beginning, when I created my membership, that was my selling point, is you can get access to everything for a very low price. Later I added coaching, and later I added self-coaching, so mindset training to the library. And later I added, sales training calls to help teachers empower them to sell and not feel icky when it comes to selling. But in the beginning, it was just that. There was a forum where you could ask a question, and there was a place where you can get these materials. And every month I would create new materials, and it was amazing. So, as it happens, when you create a membership like that, you are allowing your students to get access to your resources, and maybe also ask you questions, and maybe pull on the resources within the community itself. There are certain challenges, and there are usually um, three main challenges that have to do with our habit of teaching one-to-one. Habit number one is underpricing. We do not know how to price our services. We do not often even know how to price one-to-one classes. We look around and see, okay, people here seem to be like charging this amount. And I know, because I used to do that. Like, oh, I come from this country. This is how much I can charge. This is how much I will never be able to charge. And so I was charging that amount. So when you drop the one-to-one component, and then you are in a community, then there's a question like, well, what do I charge? I mean, how do I even measure that? So pricing becomes an issue. You might go and see, what are other people charging, which is never a good thing. There is a completely different way of figuring out your pricing. I teach that inside our community, because it really it has to do with what you need and understanding how much of a capacity you can take. But underpricing is the first most common culprit with your community. Now, you want to make it affordable, and you usually do, and there's nothing wrong in making it affordable. However, with underpricing comes the other challenge, and the challenge is over delivering. Okay, so because you used to have one-to-one classes and give everything you've got, now you have a community and you can't go at the same pace. You need to rediscover what value actually means and how you can deliver this value without burning out yourself and your students. Because sometimes we think, well, if I just give all the resources, of course my students will be so grateful and they will love it. But it doesn't happen that way. There's a sweet spot, and you need to know how far you have gone, because you might be able to go way too far and not be able to really give your students the space that they need to learn or to internalize what they're learning from you. And that's what happens when you over deliver. You feel like, oh, that's great that I over deliver. But very soon students are unsubscribing and they no longer want to stay because they cannot justify their investment. Like, why should I be paying if I'm not using it? Right? So under pricing, over delivering. There's another huge factor that sometimes teachers don't recognize, and that is the lack of autonomy, where your students do not have enough autonomy to be able to complete those tasks on their own. And that's why teaching through voice chats and moving away from one-to-one classes is your first step towards creating something like a membership, right? That is actually sustainable, that can be enjoyed both by your students and by you, that can be just enough materials for them to progress, but not too much for them to be overwhelmed, and not too much for you to feel like you're spending so much more time. And so the engagement is a big uh, challenge too. And at that point, because when your students are not used to the autonomous learning, they're not able to engage, and they feel like they always need to have a teacher to motivate them. And finally, another challenge for membership sites is the technical. And here I can talk forever, but I'm limited in timing today. And I want to actually direct your attention to a mini course that I created on paid communities. It's the link is in the description, and I can actually drop it in the chat as well. For those of you who are interested right now, it is at 50% off until tomorrow. So I hope that you can join if you're interested. But the tech side, I remember myself how I used to overthink, and I would get a really complicated plugin, and then I would pay a designer to work on it. And you really don't have to do it like that as much. You can use the tools, very, very easy to use tools to process your payments. And in the course, I give examples of some teachers that used acuity scheduling for their membership. You can use Patreon, and Patreon handles everything. I mean, all the work. You do not need to create an extra website. You don't need to add a plugin. You do not need to do anything. If you can avoid a lot of tech issues in the beginning, if you can do as much as you can on your own sustainably, then you will be able to grow this community. For me, I remember the first year I was considering like dropping it. I invested so much money into my community, and it took me several years to actually, because it's a long-term project, it took me several years to get to a point where I felt like, okay, now it is sustainable. Now it's actually making money. Now it's impacting people. But so if you're able to take the technology and make it really simple for you, and they're very simple tools out there. You do not need to create a website. You do not need an extra plugin. You will be able to get your community to a point of sustainability, and then slowly and gradually invest and maybe even hire a web designer. All right. And learn also in the process how to sell and market it. Because as you do that, as you're able to sell and market it with very simple tools, you will later be able to sell and market it with a really robust website. Because whether or not you have a website, whether or not your tool is sophisticated or not, does not impact how many people you're going to enroll in your community. What is important, what is at the core of this, is knowing how to teach to multiple people without overwhelming them, giving them just enough value. And it also is important for you to internalize like what people are actually getting, and to be able to communicate it clearly and in simple terms. Well, I hope this was a helpful lesson for you. If you want to learn more about online paid communities, how some teachers were able to monetize their podcast, all this information is inside my mini course. You can learn more by clicking the link in the comments. I would welcome your questions in the comments, and I'm looking forward to our next live, which is going to be next week, but earlier than Friday. I'm looking forward to connecting with you, so stay tuned for the updates. Bye.